ultimately, we want to help people have more agency in the world when it comes to issues that are impacted by science. So, technology, climate change, medicine, public health, because we think the more people who are well informed about how science works and what its potential is, then the more just and equitable society will be.
You know, for me, the mission of NOVA is basically all about connecting with an audience. If we didn't have an audience, we wouldn't have a TV show, obviously. And so, you know, when I think about NOVA and engagement, what I'm thinking about is, you know, what are the things that make the audience want to keep coming back and watching our shows week after week, year after year? And I think it's pretty simple. We tell great stories and we feature really interesting and exciting characters. You know, we try to imbue our programs with intelligence, and we try to be super clear and super trustworthy. And those things all together, to me, are what make NOVA films really impactful and entertaining, and often both, really. And we do think it's really important on a sort of a more mission level to help the American public really understand how science works, the process of science, so that they can make really good decisions as citizens. And we just think that that's vital.
Sometimes we do that fairly directly, telling stories about problems or challenges people are facing and the role that science can have addressing those problems. And the other key way we engage people in science is more purely about the joy of discovery. And NOVA has made many, many, many films that look at basic science and exploration in this way. So most of our space shows about quantum physics, mathematics, the nature of time and space. And these tap into that fundamental curiosity about the world that's so deeply human, and the questions we all have about how the universe works, what it's made of, where did we come from. And then the films follow the journey about how human beings use scientific methods to find the answers to those questions, and almost inevitably leading to more questions. And I think these are the ways that science stories can really have a transformative effect and empower people in their own lives.
I mean, in a way, NOVAs are sort of plot-driven films as opposed to deep character studies. You know, we have questions at the beginning of the film, and we want to see what happens next. And I think that's kind of the way that the films generally unfold. What happens next? And at the same time, we're trying to be mindful of the questions that are arising in the viewer's mind as we go along, mainly about science and mainly about what the people are doing. And we try to anticipate those questions. And the way I think of it is, it's almost like we're asking people to step out off a cliff with us. And just as they're putting their foot down into empty space, we step in with a support. And then they take another step, and then we step in with the support. And what that to me is sort of like, at this point, the viewer is just starting to ask themselves this question, and so we step in and we give them the answer in a way that they can feel like they're just about to get the answer on their own. We're not giving them too much information too soon, and we're not withholding information so that they feel confused. And it's sort of an art to keeping the narrative story of what's happening with the participants in the film, and also this kind of narrative in the viewer's mind of the sort of trajectory of understanding the topic.
Making a good NOVA for us is really all about good storytelling. And over the years, I think we've really stood out as a series that does not back away from difficult topics. And sometimes these are controversial or politically charged topics, like intelligent design, climate change, cannabis, and sometimes just intellectually really challenging science like quantum mechanics or genetic engineering. And I think for all of these, we have this fundamental belief that for most people to absorb knowledge, to reach a genuine understanding of a concept, the best route is to engage as much of their brain as possible, including emotions. And the key to that for us is narrative. So we tell stories that are driven by specific questions, and the best stories follow human beings who face challenges in answering those questions. And this has been a very clear hallmark for Nova from the very beginning. Michael Ambrosino, who created Nova just about 50 years ago, he saw this need for people to be more engaged in science. And GBH, the Boston station, which produces so many great PBS programs, saw the potential for this. He was very intentional when he gathered the creative teams who would make the films, that they were filmmakers who were storytellers first. And this core idea of story was carried on by Paula Apsell, who led Nova for more than 30 years. Paula pushed Nova to tackle more and more ambitious science topics and expanded the scope of the series. She led the series through the transition to the digital age. So Nova became much more than a weekly TV show. It's now a multi-platform brand. It engages with people on digital platforms, social media, both long form, short form films, text pieces, interactive games. But no matter what we do, wherever Nova is and whatever form our work takes, the core of storytelling and engaging the audience's emotions through narrative is still there. It's essential.
Nova's a nonfiction documentary strand, right? And I know for me, I had a background in fiction filmmaking. For me, imagination would seem to be something that goes hand in hand with fiction. But in fact, imagination is shot through all of our films because the stories that we're telling require creativity and imagination in order to bring them to life, particularly the most difficult topics in some cases. So the imagination is based upon understanding something that's real and being able to imagine a way that it can be communicated creatively to an audience to get their imaginations going. And so, we're not a science fiction strand, we're a science strand. But as a big science fiction fan myself, I know that some of the best science fiction is the science fiction that's really grounded in something credible and real, right? All we're doing is we're taking that same grounded, credible, real science stuff, and we're telling fantastic stories with it without inventing anything that isn't real.
Imagination plays such an important role at Nova. First, because imagination is key to science. Great scientific endeavors start with great questions, and I think great questions themselves require imagination. And then, of course, anytime someone comes up with a hypothesis that needs to be tested, that relies on imagination. And sometimes the films themselves require a tremendous amount of imagination to try to visualize and help the audience understand things that are not visual, that are not visible, or are conceptually really difficult. Our films about string theory and quantum entanglement, they often rely on visual metaphors to try to help the audience comprehend these structures in the physical world that are often really counterintuitive to the way we experience and interact with our environments in our everyday lives. And it's all done to try to capture and convey that energy, that spark of excitement that humans can feel when they experience a new idea or see the world in a new way.
Nova began as a broadcast series on broadcast television. And initially, I think when we saw the proliferation of other forms of media and platforms, there was a little bit of anxiety at Nova because, it was competition really for audience, for people who are interested in the content, the type of content we produce. But I think pretty quickly we realized that all of those different platforms were opportunities. And so the curiosity that brings people to watch the Nova long form films on television or on streaming platforms, that curiosity is not limited to wanting content in only that one box. And so we've really tried to understand where those interests and needs are, and what kind of content people gravitate towards, who share in that basic curiosity, and to try to meet them where they are and develop content that will speak to them in the same way that our long form films speak to the audience that loves those.
Nova has this amazing foundation of telling the great stories that are unfolding in the world all around us. And for Chris and me today, we have a special focus on making those stories relevant and meaningful and accessible to as many people as possible. And that means continuing to make sure that Nova's reaching people on multiple platforms in the different ways where people are engaging with media today and in this new landscape we're in, but also making our films more inclusive and representative of the diversity of America in particular.
For viewers, for the audience, seeing people on screen that are like you really matters, particularly when it comes to younger viewers who, we hope will engage with science in positive ways. And so what we've realized is that people who are younger scientists, let's say, coming up in the world, tend to be, as a group, more diverse than the sort of most established members of the scientific community. And younger scientists in general are enthusiastic, they're passionate, they can be great communicators, and we love the energy that we get sometimes by featuring younger scientists, which then allows us to show a more diverse picture of what the scientific world is like.
It's so important for public television to serve all the communities across our country. That's a fundamental mission of PBS. So we're very intentional about making sure that we're providing a platform for and highlighting the work of women scientists and scientists of color and other underrepresented groups. So we believe the world is better when everyone is engaged and has agency in science, and when science itself is inclusive and driven by people with diverse perspectives. And we believe we can play an important role, Nova can play an important role in showing the world how that kind of science can serve humanity better.